Good evening to everyone who is joining us from Asia. Good afternoon to all our Middle Eastern, European, African folks. And good morning to everyone who is joining us from the West. We are live right now, and I can see many of you all have started joining in on the streaming on YouTube. And for everyone who has dialed in on this call, if you can let us know on the chat which city are you exactly dialing in from. The chat window is now open, and if you can just put up which city are you dialing in from exactly, we are okay. We have students who are joining in from Srinagar, India, Toronto from Canada, from Mumbai, Pune, Nairobi, Abuja from Africa. We have students from Islamabad, Pakistan, from Kenya, Africa, from Budapest, from Ghana, from Nigeria again, from Mumbai, from Pakistan. We have wide range of students who have dialed in today from Asia and Africa. That's wonderful. All right, just a second. Perfect. Uh, I am Moin Naik and I am representing Seed Global Education today. We are a higher education firm based out in the United Kingdom, and we help high potential students in making their dream of studying either a MBA, a business master's, or a STEM master's a reality in top global universities. And today, for the next 60 minutes or so, we have got an exciting workshop on building the best MS application. And this session would be focusing on Minnesota Carlson's STEM-designated application workshop. The Carlson School of Management at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities offers a dynamic graduate business education that combines rigorous academics and with real-world experience. With a global network of over 55,000 alumni, you'll gain access to valuable industry connections at Minnesota Carlson. They have renowned faculty, which brings deep expertise and practical insights, preparing you with both foundational knowledge and hands on skill. Beyond classroom learning, you'll engage in live client projects that apply your studies to real business challenges. Located in Minneapolis, St. Paul, ranked amongst the best US cities to live and home to 16 Fortune 500 companies, Minnesota Carlson offers exceptional career opportunities and a high quality of life. The Carlson Business Center for support students and alumni alike, providing personalized guidance to help you grow at every stage of your career. They have wide range of programs from Masters of Science in Business Analytics to MS in Finance to Masters of Human Resources and Industrial Relations, Masters of Marketing, Management Sciences, Masters of Accountancy, and a lot more. Today, you'll be discovering what makes these programs unique, from the in-demand skills they build to the extended work opportunities in the US that a STEM designation offers. Whether you're just starting up or exploring your options or are ready to apply, this session today will give you a clear understanding of how a Minnesota Carlson STEM designated program can set you up for a lasting career growth. Before we begin, we have a quick poll for everyone who has joined in on this call today. What are you hoping to learn from this session today? I'll be quickly starting the poll right now, and you'll be having 10 seconds to answer the same. And here it is on your screens. What are you exactly looking forward to learning from this session? Are you looking at understanding the admissions criteria? Are you looking to gain more tips on how to build a strong application profile? Whether you're looking for information about funding and scholarship opportunities or all of the above. We'll just wait for another 8 seconds and we'll close the poll. Everyone who has joined in, you can answer the poll which is on your screen right now. We have about 150 of you all have answered so far. We'll just wait for another 5 seconds. Last 3 seconds. All right. Here are the results of the poll. So many of you all who have joined in on this call are looking forward to learning everything today. You're looking at understanding the admission criteria, about how to build a strong application, as well as scholarship and funding opportunities. That's great. That's great. Okay. Without further ado, I'll introduce you all to the folks who have joined us today from Minnesota Carlson. We are joined by Miss Susan Horn. Susan is the Senior Director of Recruiting Admissions for Minnesota Carlson MBA and MS programs. She's passionate about helping students like yourself transform and reach their career goals through the skills, resources, and knowledge gained through graduate education. Susan has 14 years of experience in higher education sector, having worked with Minnesota Carlson, University of Chicago, Loyola University, and 7 years of experience in commercial banking with banks such as Bank of America and the Fifth Third Bank. She's a transplant to Minnesota like many of the students she connects with, and having lived in several regions of the country, Susan loves introducing folks to the educational and professional opportunities that exist in the bold north of Minnesota. Thank you so much, Susan, for joining in today. Also, we have with us Mr. Garth Herbert. Garth is the Associate Director of Recruiting for Minnesota Carlson MBA and MS programs. He has spent his 7-year career in higher education, helping both undergraduate and graduate students achieve their long-term educational goals. Garth has been a part of Minnesota Carlson's graduate program team for a little over 3 years now and has a lot of experience helping students from all around the world navigate the complex graduate school application process. Thank you so much, Garth, for joining us today. All right, without any further delay, I'll quickly hand over the floor to both Garth and Susan to take the session forward.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for that introduction. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We have a few slides to run through that'll help guide our conversation today. So we can go ahead and do that. And you all should be able to see the cover slide for our presentation today. So as Moin mentioned, yeah, I'm Susan Hahn. I lead the admissions and recruiting team here for the whole portfolio of MBA and master's programs. And today, Garth and I are going to specifically talk through 3 of our STEM designated programs. These programs tend to be the programs that folks that apply to the most. They tend to be the largest of our STEM portfolio. And so we know there's a lot of questions about these when folks are considering, if I'm considering a STEM program, which one of these might be the best fit. And also each of these programs have their own specific nuances when it comes to both items required in the application and prerequisites. And so we are here to answer any questions and give you a brief program overview. And then of course, we'll dive into your questions as well. All right, so I'll kick us off. And again, Garth and I are just going to give you a brief overview of the Management Science MBA program, which is our STEM MBA program, our MS in Business Analytics program, and then our MS in Finance program today. And then we'll talk through kind of the way the admissions team looks at applications, as well as some of the specific application components and how you can really put your best foot forward in applying to our programs. All right, so Management Science MBA here at Carlson. So the Management Science MBA and our traditional full-time MBA students are essentially part of the same class. So both are considered our full-time MBA program. The Management Science or STEM MBA track simply has 2 more required analytics-focused courses as part of the core curriculum. And then for a certain pool of your elective courses, you'll choose from a menu of STEM options. So students in this program really get the whole full-time MBA experience. You will be intermixed with traditional full-time MBA students throughout your time in the program, both on core teams, in your classes, and via your electives. The full-time MBA program and the STEM MBA program are really designed for folks who have a minimum of 2 years of experience, ideally closer to 3 in this job market, based on what we're hearing from our career team. And a lot of folks in this program are pursuing this degree because they want to fully immerse themselves in the programmatic experience and potentially pivot to a different career. When we think at candidate profiles, a lot of times folks have been in the workforce again. So I said minimum 2 years, ideally 3, but you can see our average is 5 years of work experience. So this case has given folks time to kind of think through, okay, I've had some years of experience under my belt. Here's some things that I've realized in terms of skill gaps that I might be needing. And also you have experience that you can talk about in the classroom, both to inform your decision to pursue an MBA, and also to inform what you might contribute to a team and the types of areas you might want to specialize in as part of your elective study. In terms of the 2-year program itself, one thing that I think really is differentiating about our program is not just our location here in the Twin Cities, but the experiential learning that's embedded throughout this program. And so our MBA program is one of the first in the country to really, really hone in on what everyone is calling now experiential learning or hands-on learning. So many programs will embed some type of hands-on learning or practical application in their curriculum. but ours is unique in that it's 2 full semesters of your MBA program with an option to even add a 3rd semester course as well. So we have what we call enterprise programs in the STEM MBA program. And so in the 2nd semester of your 1st year, and then the 1st semester of your 2nd year of the program, you will choose to participate in one of 4 different enterprise programs. The topics you can see listed there are brands, which is more marketing focused, consulting, funds, which is our finance or asset management investment focused opportunity, and then ventures, which is focused on entrepreneurship. And so over the course of 2 full semesters, you'll engage in, acting as a consultant or as an analyst in these particular subject areas, working either with live companies who are paying the Carlson School for kind of your analysis and consulting expertise, or perhaps managing $15 million, 50 of an investment fund from real investors, not just a piece of our endowment. These are folks who are really coming to the school and saying, hey, we want you to manage our money in the student class, or perhaps evaluating market opportunities, developing a launch plan or a business plan for a startup or a new venture, assessing go or no go market opportunities and ventures. So the way that that is situated in our program is not only very, very immersive, but it's also strategically positioned right before you might start your internship between your 1st and 2nd year. And then also in your 2nd year of the program, as you're going to be doing interviews for full-time positions as well. So you'll not only have your internship experience to draw from, but also your experiential learning experience to draw from across 2 whole semesters. And those experiences almost function like another additional internship themselves. So they really, really prepare our students for the workforce. And you'll be able to work with our career team to really kind of draw out those experiences you've had, even within our program, to really set yourself apart to employers during the process. You can see kind of some other stats and kind of high-level information about our program, including the average employment statistics over the last 3 years and the average salary and sign-on bonus. And if you do go to our website, we have an employment reports page that will list out, the current year or for the last graduating class employment information. But we do have a history of success for our students in this program. So we're excited to, and we're very proud of that as well. The MBA program, both the STEM MBA and the full-time MBA program begin in the fall term. So orientation is in August each year and classes begin in September. And we are open for fall 2026 applications. So our round 1 deadline is rapidly approaching here. I can't believe it, on October 1st. And then we have a few other opportunities as well. I would say that, if you're an international student, understand that the round 1 deadline might be coming up really quickly. Really try to target that round 2 deadline. It'll set you up nicely to be considered for the maximum amount of scholarship opportunities if you get your application in by round 2. And then if you're someone who is debating, whether or not to take the GMAT or the GRE, and you have some work experience, know that we do have a test waiver process as part of our application. So you need to open an application, and then if you navigate to the test scores section, if you have typically around 4 years of work experience and undergraduate GPA that is strong, it's possible we may be able to full on waive that standardized test requirement. So just wanted you to know that that is an option. Scholarships are determined at time of admission. That's consistent across all of our programs. And so if you find out that you've been admitted, you will also find out if you have been awarded a scholarship as well. So you'll have a full set and a complete package of information. So that's kind of the quick high level facts about our STEM MBA program. And the last thing I'll say is that this is a program that you're going to be moving through as a cohort. So you're going to be taking all of your core classes together with folks who start in the same term as you. So folks who start with next fall, you're going to graduate with in May of 2028. And the first year of the program, you're in a lot of core classes, and the second year is really when you get to specialize as well. So with that, I will turn it over to Garth to dive in to our business analytics program.
Thanks so much, Susan. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Garth Herbert, Associate Director of Recruiting here for Minnesota Carlson. So I'm going to be talking to you all a bit about the MS in Business Analytics as well as the MS in Finance program. But kicking things off with MS in Business Analytics, this is so Susan was just talking about our MBA program, which is aimed a bit more at individuals that are a bit later on in their career, like she said, minimum of 2 years of expected work experience. MS in Business Analytics is aimed at recent graduates and early career professionals. So there is no required amount of work experience for this program. We do see a contingent of people coming directly from undergrad every year, though we do say that for those students, we typically expect them to have some kind of internship experience, at least from their undergrad. So the MS in Business Analytics is a 12-month concise, hyper-focused program where you're going to be diving deeply into data analysis, learning both the technical side of things and also developing a consulting skill set, right? So you're going to be using data to solve business problems and to try and draw business insights from the data that clients or companies provide you with. Like Susan said, experiential learning is a huge part of all of our programs here at Minnesota Carlson, and MS in Business Analytics is no exception. Throughout the program, you're going to be working very closely with client companies through all kinds of different types of projects, getting that hands-on experience. Like Susan said, very similar to the kind of work that you'd be doing in an internship, and that's definitely something that's of high value to our students as they're going out into the working world. So this program is also cohort-based. It's a full-time program. You're going to be with the same group of students all the way through for all 45 credits. So fall, spring, summer. This program also starts in the fall. There is no option for a spring start for this program. You do also have the option to specialize somewhat through your 6 elective credits. So that's always very exciting, especially for students that are interested in the world of artificial intelligence. AI is a very key part of this program, and we have the options for students to take an AI for business track within this program where you could take AI specific electives. So that's something that students have been really excited about. And just especially because AI is becoming such an important part of not only data analysis, but just business in general. It's a really valuable skill for our students to develop through this program. Similar to the MBA program, we've got our class profile as well as our average salary and sign-on bonus. What I'll point out about the class profile, sometimes students see class profiles for any program, not just our programs, and they think that, okay, well, surely these are the minimums to join the program, or I have to meet all of these numbers in order to join this program. That's absolutely not the case. These are the averages. So just keep that in mind as you're navigating things. And if you ever have questions about your profile specifically, and if you think if you're a good fit for a program, reach out to the admissions office and we'd be happy to have a conversation with you, or any admissions office will be happy to have a conversation with you as to whether we think you're a good fit. The last thing I'll point out here on this slide is we're excited to announce that for students entering fall 2026, we are actually going to be lowering our tuition price. It was decided by the program leadership. What that price will be should be updated on our website here within the next week, but I encourage you all to be eagerly watching our website for that update because it's something we're really excited about and we're excited to talk more about when we have those specific numbers. So a few of just the logistical aspects of this program, you could see over on the left those deadlines. We have a bit more time for the first deadline for MSBA versus the MBA program. I do always encourage students to apply for that earliest deadline that they're able to put forward their best application. But of course, if you need a little bit of extra time, just note that there are a few deadlines that are the final deadline for certain groups of people. So just keep a keen eye on that. And of course, if you ever need help trying to get an application together by a certain deadline, you're welcome to work with the admissions office and we'd be happy to help you get your application over the finish line. A few important notes about the MSBA specifically, their application. There are 2 prerequisites for this program, and we're going to be talking about prerequisites in general a little bit later on in the presentation, but always, always, always check what the prerequisites are for a given program you're applying for. For this program specifically, there are 2 prerequisites. There's a quantitative prerequisite that is required by the time you apply. Could be a class that you took in your undergrad, whether it's statistics or calculus or linear algebra. So just note that that has to be done by the time you apply. Also a programming prerequisite. This program is highly technical, so we want to ensure that students have a technical foundation before they enter. This programming prerequisite can be completed after you're admitted to the program, but it is preferred that you have that completed by the time of application. The GMAT GRE is slightly different for this program too, in that it is optional if you meet a specific GPA threshold. If your cumulative undergraduate GPA was at least a 3.0 on a 4.0 scale, then it is optional for you to submit your GMAT or GRE. If you don't meet that GPA threshold, it is required. We understand that some students have different GPA scales that they're working with. If you ever have questions about that, you're welcome to reach out to our office. We're happy to clarify things for you. But in general, if you have at least a B average, if your school considers you to have a B average, that's sufficient for our purposes. And then the last piece I'll mention on this page here, like Susan said, scholarships are always automatically considered just by applying to our program. So you don't have to worry about submitting 50 extra small forms to be considered for every single scholarship for our program. It's automatic at the time of admission. And then when you receive your letter of admission from us, you'll also receive your scholarship offer at the same time. And with that, we'll go ahead and transition to the Master of Science in Finance. So rolling on through, the Master of Science in Finance is similar to our MSBA in that this is also aimed at recent graduates and early career professionals. You'll probably see that a lot if you're looking at Master of Science programs. The specialized programs are typically aimed at early career professionals. That is especially the case for Minnesota Carlson. So the point of this program is to really give students a deep dive into the world of finance at the graduate level. So you're going to be learning how to navigate the corporate finance world while also developing some valuable technical skills and tools that are used very often by people that are working in these fields. Something kind of unique and cool about this program is that after you join the program, you have the option to take it at either a 10-month or 16-month pace. So if you want to wrap up the program very quickly and start getting into your career and getting that return on investment fast, you could take the 10-month track. If you want to add a bit of time at no additional cost, you could pad out your credits a bit and then leave a summer open so that you could pursue an internship if you want a bit more experience before you go out into your career. So there's a lot of flexibility there. This program's also unique in that it starts in the summer versus a lot of our programs start in the fall. So that's another thing I always encourage you to keep an eye out for is double check and see when programs start, because there can be variance there. The other thing I always like to highlight about the Master of Science in Finance is the experiential learning component. Like I said, experiential learning is such a key part to Minnesota Carlson programs, and Master of Science in Finance is no exception. Students will be eligible to apply for the Carlson Funds Enterprise. So Susan mentioned the enterprise programs for the MBA. Master of Science in Finance students get the opportunity to join the Funds Enterprise, which is an investment firm where you get to invest $50 million for clients. It's one of the largest student-run investment firms in the country. It's something we're really proud of, and it's such an amazing opportunity to work with real money and large amounts of money before you even go out into the finance world. As we've mentioned, you can see the profile there on the left. Again, these are averages. These are not minimums to join our program. You can also see too that the Master of Science in Finance, like the Master of Science in Business Analytics, is also going to be receiving a lower tuition with the official updates to the website and those specific numbers to be coming out here within the next week. So some logistical aspects about this program in terms of upcoming deadlines and application requirements. You can see the deadlines over on the left. They're very similar deadlines to the Master of Science in Business Analytics, but the dates aren't always necessarily exactly the same. So just always be sure, don't assume that deadlines you see for one program are going to be the same across all other programs here at an individual institution like Minnesota Carlson. But November 1st is our upcoming deadline. You do have plenty of time to put together a great application. Again, feel free to reach out to us if you want help developing that application. One other unique aspect to the Master of Science in Finance is there are 2 tracks in the program. You can choose if you're interested in going into academia. We have a research-based track. We do see some students that occasionally want to go on to get their PhD in finance. We do have a specific track within the program to give students some more experience in that respect. Their application is also slightly different. I always encourage students that are interested in the research track of our program to reach out to our office to talk through what some of those differences look like and to help you best prepare that application. This program also has prerequisites. We require statistics taken at the university level. You can also use a Coursera course to fulfill that stats requirement. And then also calculus is preferred for this program. The GMAT and GRE requirement is exactly the same for this program as it is for the MS in Business Analytics. There's that cumulative undergraduate GPA threshold. And just like the Master of Science in Business Analytics and the MBA program, scholarships are automatically considered and offered to students at the time of admission to the program. And with that, so that's the broad overview of our 3 most popular STEM designated programs. And now Susan's going to talk a little bit about how we do our review process in general.
Fantastic. Thank you, Garth, for going over the business analytics and finance programs. So in terms of our admissions process, we practice holistic review when we're looking at applications. And that might be a term that you hear from other schools. And so I can explain what that means here at Carlson. So what we're looking at when you submit your application are really kind of 3 different buckets. So we're looking at academics, we're looking at your professional experience, and then we're looking at kind of how you match with our overall program. Is this going to be a fit both for you and what you are looking for? Do we believe that you can succeed? And so how do all those things interplay together? We do not weight specific pieces of the application. So that's really important because we hear from candidates a lot, one example might be, hey, I had a rough first year in college. And then once I got into my current major, things started to go a little bit more smoothly, right? And so their overall GPA might not be, reflective of their true potentials, right? And so this is something that we talk candidates through. So, perceived weaker area maybe in one part of your application can be offset by a strong other piece of your application as well. So we are looking at the overall package. We are not assigning specific weights to individual pieces of your application. We're really looking at everything overall. So in the academics bucket, test scores and transcripts. So you saw that for some of our programs, tests can either be waived or they're optional. But for all of our programs, transcripts are required. So you need to upload an unofficial transcript in your application from anywhere that you've earned college credits. So if you have transfer credits from another institution, please be sure to get that transcript if you've taken more than 12 credits there and upload it to your application. With your academic strength, again, we also see some folks who say, well, my GPA might be a little bit lower. Should I submit a test score? And that's something for you to think about. A test score that is, stronger or above average can certainly offset a GPA that might be a little bit below our averages. Now, as Gar said, we don't have any minimum GPA requirements, and those stats and those class profiles are really indicative of a range. So keep that in mind as well. In terms of test scores too, just GMAT or GRE, we don't have a preference. So if you are going to take a standardized test, I would recommend doing some practice exams, see which test feels right for you as you're considering that process. With professional strength, we're going to evaluate this by looking at your resume, and we're going to look at your references. And so on your resume, for folks that have work experience, post-undergraduate degree, we want to make sure that you're detailing out, any positions you've had, like quantifying anything that you can in terms of your responsibilities. If you have an increase in terms of job scope or responsibilities, be sure you're listing that out and putting kind of, action verbs and details clearly and specifically under those bullet points. There's nothing more frustrating for a reviewer when they're looking at your resume to be able to kind of have to piece through where you worked somewhere and what those dates were. So as clear as you can possibly be is great. And I think our team is even hosting some upcoming application workshops where we share like the resume template that our Career Center uses for students, so we can kind of pass along the format that they've known that we're looking for. If you're someone who's coming directly from undergrad and you may not have experience after you have graduated yet, Be sure to list out any internship experiences, any projects that you worked on that also might be relevant to your degree. So these are all things we're kind of going to look at as we think of your experience. Again, MSF and MSBA are early career programs, so we certainly have folks that come directly in from undergrad, but for those folks, having internship experience is still important, and we want to know about those things that you've done. And then finally, in terms of overall fit, all of our applications have a video essay, and some have an in-person interview and some have what we call video interviews that are asynchronous. We're going to look at those combined with your personal statement, which is going to go into your goals and kind of your motivations for the program to determine, do you understand what the program expectations are? Do you have realistic goals? Are you able to articulate those goals? And what are you going to contribute to the classroom? And so really all of those things go into the overall admissions decision. And we also will pull in other key stakeholders to help with our application review as well. So we might have our academic advisors look at your application, the career team will look at applications, and then the overall academic directors will also weigh in on applications as well.
Okay, I'll talk a bit about prerequisites for the sake of time. We'll go through these next few sections a little bit quickly, but one thing that when Susan and I were building this presentation, one of our goals was to give you all a series of tips that could apply not only to our programs, but just across any other programs you're considering as you're going through this process. So with prereqs in particular, I won't go into too much detail here because we already covered these for our MSBA and MSF programs, but we wanted to put up just examples of what prereqs for a given program could look like. I always encourage students to look at the prereqs as one of their very first steps when they're considering a program, just because if you don't have a prereq fulfilled, it can take some time to get that fulfilled, and you don't want to leave that until the last minute because it could cause a lot of stress, putting in a lot of hours to try to get prereq fulfilled in time by the application deadline. What I'll also say too for prereqs is prerequisites for a given program. They are the bare minimum you need to be considered for admission and to potentially be admitted to the program. But often with programs, and I would say with our programs in particular, I would say the more evidence you can show of proficiency with a given prerequisite. So if you have more evidence of programming, for instance, whether it's personal projects or academic projects you worked on, you should still talk about those in your application, because more evidence you show of proficiency can only help you and make you more competitive in the process. So as I said, I won't dive into each of these prereqs here because we covered those in those MSBA and MSF slides. But if you have questions about our prereqs specifically, always feel free to reach out to me or our team, and we're happy to talk through the different ways that you could get those covered.
Thanks, Garth. Yeah, and then just one last note on the prereqs here too. If you're somebody who maybe has been considering our analytics program in particular for some time, the quantitative prereq in the past could only be fulfilled by calculus. And while that is still preferred, we now have an expanded list of things and subjects that would fulfill that. So for example, college level statistics course would count, linear algebra. We have a whole list on our website now. So if that's something that you've been thinking about or it's been on your mind, know that that has been updated to be a little bit more of an expanded subject set. So all the more reason to reinforce what Garth said about doing your research about prereqs early and making sure you understand what counts and what doesn't count in that bucket. Letters of recommendation. So 2 letters of recommendation are required for all of our applications. If you're applying to the MBA program, we are, again, expecting you have a minimum of 2 years of post-undergrad or post-bachelor's work experience. And so in this case, we want at least one of your recommendations to be from a manager. And then the other can be from like a peer or a colleague. Again, we're primarily looking for professional recommendations. For our analytics program and our finance program, again, if you have an internship supervisor or somebody who you worked with in an internship or in some sort of professional capacity, we prefer those types of recommendations versus an academic advisor. Now we do see faculty recommendations and those are certainly acceptable. But again, our preference would be towards someone who can speak to your professional abilities or who may have worked with you in some type of capacity and kind of assess your skills that way. Other thing on recommendations, these are often the last pieces of the application to come in. And so, as you're completing your application, think about the things that you have control over completing and the things that you might have to wait for other people or a third party to complete. And so letter of recommendation is one of those things. So be sure to ask your recommenders and give them a heads up that this request is coming sooner than later. So oftentimes, we like to tell folks like do this as one of the first things in your application so that it's in your recommender's inbox. We can, you can ping them with reminders and you can give them a due date. Because again, people get busy and you want to make sure that you're on their calendar, you're top of mind. And they're going to get a prompt to their inbox from our application system that is going to tell them and ask them to kind of evaluate you and your candidacy across a few different dimensions of, leadership, collaboration, communication, and then there are a couple of short answer questions as well. But just, if you're targeting that round 1 deadline, for sure, make sure that this is on your resume or on your radar to get done soon. And even for round 2 as well. And please, consistently follow up with those people again, so that they can be your advocate, and that they can make sure that your application gets reviewed in a timely manner, because we won't move your application forward to review until it's fully complete.
Awesome. Yeah. And just talking a bit about standardized test scores. We covered a lot of this in the slides on the individual programs, but you get to see some like how different programs can have different requirements when it comes to the GMAT or GRE. I'd also encourage you to talk to the program representative on how they consider optional GMAT or GRE. So like here at the Carlson School, when a test score is optional, it truly is optional. So if you choose to take advantage of an item being optional, that will never be held against you in the review process. But there are some programs where it still could be beneficial to you to submit a score. Of course, there's a lot of nuance there, and it could be very dependent on the individual student. My general rule of thumb is if you as a student think that your undergraduate performance is not an accurate reflection of your current academic ability, then you might want to consider taking a GMAT or GRE test, because that's a great way to show what that current academic ability is like. But again, talk to the program representative, talk to the admissions office, because they'll be able to really give you a good idea on if they would recommend that you take a GMAT or GRE in preparation for a given program. Again, like Susan said, we have no preference, GMAT or GRE, but just note that different programs have different requirements. And if you have questions about the waiver for an individual program, reach out to the program office.
Okay, thanks, Garth. And one other note just on that is, just as we're talking about this as part of the academics bucket, we have a space in all of our applications as an optional essay, and that's for candidates to share anything that is contextual about their application that might be helpful for the admissions committee to know. So sometimes candidates use that space to describe something that may have been going on in their lives that may have impacted a semester in college. And so that could be a life circumstance, that could be something academic, it could be something personal. But don't shy away from, if you feel like there's something that you want to share that you haven't been able to through one of the other essay questions, and it's important for the committee to know about you as you look through your application, it's better to leave someone with no questions in your mind. And so feel comfortable sharing that information. It also helps us to get to know you kind of authentically as a candidate as well. So I think that, the committee tends to always do that as, candidates having self-awareness. If they're addressing something in their application that they say, oh, maybe this might be something someone might have a question about, or I want to explain this a little bit further. Okay, standard English language testing requirements. So, we have many programs, and we wish we could have a uniform policy for all of our programs, but each of our programs does have different requirements for English language proficiency. So in particular, the MBA program has different requirements than the master's programs. And so again, without going into great details about MBA tests requirements versus master's requirements, contact our team. We have all of this information on the website. On the application checklists, we have a space for international applicants and specifically the English language testing requirements. So please just make sure you're going in and making sure that you're aware. If you have to take a test, plan for that. And for folks who are kind of open and they say, well, I haven't scheduled anything, Duolingo is really flexible. And so it's very easy to schedule. It tends to be accessible for candidates. And so that might be something that we would recommend, again, for candidates who haven't already taken perhaps an IELTS or test.
The last thing I'll add very quickly on that point, Susan, is even if you qualify or don't qualify for an English language test waiver for a certain program, that might not be the case for all of our programs here. So if you're open to different types of programs, definitely ask the admissions representative you're talking to what the different other programs are considering, what their policies are in terms of English language test requirements. Yeah, and so as far as personal statements and essays go, we have just like 6 tips here. Won't go into too deep detail, but again, these tips apply no matter what institution you're applying for, but they especially apply at Minnesota Carlson. So the first tip we have is do your research for all of your written materials, right? Like admissions review committees love to see it when students have actually put thought in it as to why this program, why this institution, what is it about this institution that will give you your return on investment. When you could show that logic in your application, that always stands out to admissions review committee. So definitely do your research, have conversations with the admissions team, look at the website, talk to current students. These are great ways to stand out in the admissions review process. Again, number 2, basic, proofread your materials, have someone else proofread your materials too. I can't tell you how many times I've written out essays or statements, and you just read them over and over and over again, and then you hand them to a friend and they find an obvious typo that you missed just because you're reading it constantly. So it's so easy to miss those easy mistakes. Be sure to answer all the questions. Another pretty obvious one. And if an application gives you a word count or a page limit, please stick to that page limit or word count. I can't tell you how many times the admissions review committee has reached out and said, "Oh, this student submitted a 20-page essay when we only asked for 3." It does stand out when a student does follow the directions, or I should say, it stands out if a student chooses not to follow the directions we've laid out in the application. So be sure to keep to those word counts. And sometimes students have questions about like certain prompts or like what we're actually trying to ask. It's always okay to reach out to our admissions team and ask for clarification. Like, hey, what do you mean by this? Our answer could be, it's whatever you think it is. And that might be part of the point of the prompt. But you're always welcome to reach out to our office and ask for clarification on specific prompts. One common pitfall that I always see, so I was sure to add this to the list of tips. If we ask for short-term career goals, we're not just saying, I want to complete a program, right? Like we want you to say, like in the next few years after you graduate, what are those short-term career goals, assuming you graduate from our program? A lot of times we'll see, or sometimes we'll see students just say, I would like to graduate from your MBA program. That's my short-term career goal. We're typically looking for a little something else, and other programs will be looking for more information as well. The last tip we have on this front, and this is a newer tip as of the last year or so, we are starting to see more students that are utilizing artificial intelligence to write their written materials. Please don't do this. We can tell when students use AI to write their materials and it does not reflect well on their application. I know that AI is an amazing tool, and if you want to use it to assist with your research process, if you want to use it to maybe help you write an outline for an essay, that's totally fine. Like I said, it's a tool to be used, but don't have it write your paragraphs for you just because it's so easy for us to tell, and our admissions review committee is becoming better and better at recognizing when AI is used, and again, it really does not reflect well on the candidate.
Fantastic. Thanks, Garth. All right, and then I will round out our kind of application tips discussion with interviews. So for our full-time and STEM MBA program, we have a live in-person interview that you'll be invited to after a quick scan of your application. And then for the MS in Business Analytics and MS in Finance program, we have asynchronous video interviews. That was a new application requirement last year to offer candidates a little bit more flexibility in getting those done. So again, with the video interviews for MSBA and MSF, you'll be invited to those after you submit a completed application, and then you'll have a week to get those asynchronous questions done and submitted. The sooner you get those done, the sooner your application will start going through the review process. For the asynchronous questions, again, we recommend doing them all in one sitting. You will have time to review what the questions are. You'll be able to see the prompt. You'll be able to think about your answer, and then you will get a chance to record your answer as well. One thing I will say is that, we can really tell, again, when somebody has written down a response to that video interview prompt and is perhaps reading it, or they have an answer on the screen that they've typed into, again, ChatGPT or AI to help them answer a particular question. You know, we understand why candidates might do this to get a little help or to get a little, nudge in terms of a way to approach a question, but it is really obvious to the committee. We want to assess your communication skills, your individual authentic responses. We want to know about you. Okay, we don't want to know what a large language model would say about answering this particular question. We're looking for you and what your unique goals and experiences and your abilities and communication skills will be displayed in class. In terms of our, what we're looking for in both in-person and video interviews, number one, really the STAR format, situation, task, actions, results. So kind of moving through your response in that way in the questions where we're asking you to tell us about a time when, or give us an example of a time when. We're looking you for to frame your answer in this particular way. So tell me about a time when you encountered a challenging situation at work and what you learned about it. This is the way we hopefully want you to structure your response, or what we'd be looking for, or what we'd be listening for in your communication. So keep that acronym in mind when you're kind of prepping for your in-person interviews and for your video interviews. Also, when I say behavioral questions, that means that we're not going to ask you, with the exception of our MS and research track, there is one technical kind of math-based question as part of that interview process. But for our other programs, we're asking behavioral interview questions. So again, these are things about, tell me about a time when, talking about a challenge, thinking through a time when maybe you use quantitative or technical skills, right? So there are different examples I'm sure you could think through, and just make sure that you're prepared and you either have, ideas for a response or bullet points of how you might answer that, and review those before you're going into your essay. Before you're going into your interview. We want your response to be natural. We want it to be something that you're drawing on from your individual experience. And then discussing your interests outside of work in the program, those things come up during an interview, particularly our live MBA interviews. And those are perfectly fine to filter into the interview. Again, we want to know about you and get to know you as a person. All right, well, I know that was lightning fast and a lot of information. I'm sure there are some questions from the group. And before I know we turn it back over to Moyne to kind of help navigate some of those questions, we just wanted to remind you of the upcoming round 1 deadlines that we highlighted in our presentation. STEM MBAs October 1st, business analytics and MSF finance are on November 1st. So, drive as hard as you can to those round 1 deadlines. But again, know that the round 2 deadlines are also really good deadlines to target. I would say if round 1 feels too soon, be sure to have your application in by round 2. Again, that'll really maximize your chances to be evaluated for scholarships as well.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Garth and Susan, for all the information which you've shared with the students. It has been a wonderful workshop. And I believe students got to learn quite a lot about the entire application process, the eligibility process, etc. Through this session. There have been quite a lot of questions which have come in. We'll quickly take a few of them. One of the questions which has come up from Ahmed, he's asking about the STEM designation. There's a lot of talk about that, and many of the students who have joined in this session are in early stages of their career, so they have a little less clarity on what does STEM designation mean and how is it different from a normal business master's degree. If you can throw some light on that and how a STEM designated degree helps students, particularly international students, with work opportunities after they graduate.
Sure. Yeah, happy to shed some light on that. So STEM designation is a designation that certain programs can achieve that's granted by the US government to a program, essentially saying that this program is highly technical and focused on some kind of or multiple STEM subject. What it does for, especially for international students, is it grants you additional years of OPT time here in the US after you graduate. So more opportunity to work for a longer period of time, to work on, especially if a student's intending to continue to work here in the US after they graduate, gives you more time to secure something more long term. By default, if you just join a non-STEM designated program, you just get 1 year of OPT time. But with a STEM designated program, you get a total of 3 years of OPT time. So more opportunity to work for longer here in the US is essentially what it does for students.
And
Got
all the programs we talked about today are STEM designated, as well as we also have an accounting program and a supply chain program that are also STEM designated.
Got it. That's wonderful. Susan Rubina is asking a question if you can help us with what type of scholarships are on offer, and are there any kind of assistantships which are available for international students on campus?
Yeah, great question. This is one we get quite a bit. So we have merit-based scholarships for all of our programs, all of the programs that we talked about today. For the full-time MBA program, business analytics and finance, you don't have to do anything extra to be evaluated for scholarships. And like I said before, you're going to be finding out if you've received a scholarship award at the time of your admission. For the full-time MBA program, last year for this incoming class, every student who joined the program received some level of merit-based scholarship. So we're really, really proud about that. You know, we have a pool of scholarship dollars that we're able to pull from for the full-time MBA program. Scholarships range from partial tuition all the way up to full tuition. And again, to really kind of maximize your ability to be considered for a stronger merit-based scholarship, get your best application in by round 1 or round 2 if you're an international student. For the MSBA and the MS in Finance programs, we have merit-based scholarships available as well. Through SEED, we are offering scholarships this year for both of those programs. And so if you apply through SEED, you can be considered for a full tuition, so 100% scholarship, a 50% or 25% scholarship to the MSBA program or the MS in Finance program, which is great news. And then outside of the SEED scholarship, we also have additional partial merit-based scholarship opportunities. So again, those are, you know, on a case-by-case basis, evaluated with your application. And with, you know, with our, you know, updated tuition amounts coming for MSBA and MSF, you know, the intent behind that was really to make the price point, the list price for our programs a lot more accessible and more in line with the market. We know cost, especially for international students, is something that's really, really important. And so we worked really hard to be able to get a new lower tuition established for those programs that we hope will be more accessible price points for folks looking to join our program.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Susan. That was quite helpful. Got the question which has come up from one of the students, Nikita. She's asking that how does Carlson help students with real world projects and experiential learning on their STEM courses as such?
Yeah, great question. So, like we mentioned at the beginning of our presentation, all of our programs have some kind of experiential learning component. Again, experiential learning is taking what you're learning in the classroom and applying it to actual client projects. So I'll use MSBA as an example. So in the MSBA program, our business analytics program, we have an office, the Carlson Analytics Lab, whose job it is to help facilitate and bring in these types of actual client projects for our students. And so I'll give an example of a project that a student might work on in that degree. So for a capstone project, a group of students once worked with one of the largest shopping malls here in the United States, the Mall of America. It's based out of here in Minneapolis. If you ever have a chance to come visit, I definitely recommend you go check it out. But they had recently introduced free public Wi-Fi to all mall visitors. And so obviously they were getting this huge influx of data. And so they went to our students and said, we don't know what to do with all this data. Could you please help us? So what they did was they came together and they actually physically mapped the Wi-Fi usage to the mall's space. And they saw like where people were spending their time, how they were navigating throughout the mall. And so then they were able to tell the mall, give them all this useful data. And so the mall was then able to better negotiate their contracts with their retailers because they saw where people were actually spending their time. They were able to better make better signage and just overall increase the enjoyment that people got when they visited that specific shopping mall. So that's just one example of the kinds of projects you'll be working on. But again, these are actual client projects. They need, these businesses need help, and these are not like theoretical cases. It's very much actual data that you're going to be using in this program, actual client work you're going to be doing. And so it's really invaluable for our students as they go out into the working world to have those actual tangible experiences.
Yeah, and like just to piggyback on what Gar said, I mean, again, especially in interviews with employers, that in addition to internships, that combination, that experiential learning works as a pseudo internship, like while you're in the program as well. So it really, really helps to set our students apart, saying, hey, I was consultant on this Mall of America project, right? And you have something that's really, really tangible to talk about and really impressive. And that's really helped our students set themselves apart in the job market.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much, Susan, Garth, for that. Following up with this, because Garth brought up Mall of America over here, a quick question that students have when they decide on applying for their masters abroad. They look forward to how is the campus life going to be on the college which we decide on. So if you can throw some light on that and help students with what kind of experience would they get when it comes to campus life if they are to choose Minnesota Carlson.
I can start, and then Garth, feel free to chime in. So I think you heard in my intro that, I'm a transplant to Minnesota. So I'm not someone who grew up here. I grew up in the Northeast. And so I moved to Minnesota about 13 years ago now. And I will say, I can't imagine living anywhere else now. And I've lived in a few different places across the country now at this point in my life. So in terms of just like the campus community, our programs, in our programs, the staff, the faculty, anyone who kind of provides a resource to the program all knows you individually as a student. And so, you're going to work one-on-one with someone from the admissions team. We want you to have that personalized experience from before you even set foot on campus till when you leave campus and you're alum and you're kind of out there in the working world representing the program. So I will say the care for each individual student is something that even when I was interviewing, even when I started, I felt that come through loud and clear, how much our students are supported by the people that work here. We all genuinely want you to succeed. You're not just going to be a number here. The other thing is that we live, can kind of see the some of the skyline in my Zoom background here, but we're surrounded and located in Minneapolis. And so we are surrounded by the business community here. And so that allows companies, 16 Fortune 500 companies across industries to be really engaged in the campus life and with our students, and especially in the experiential one. So we have industries represented from, CPG to retail, we have Target, Best Buy, General Mills, Cargill, healthcare, entrepreneurship, the list goes on and on, banking, right? Like, so no matter what your interests are, there is an employer and a company here that is engaged and connected to campus. And we have many, many alums at these companies and beyond as well. So I would say our geography really uniquely positions ourselves. And that was something, before I moved here, I don't think I fully realized the depth of it. But in terms of career opportunities, I think there's an abundance of opportunity here that almost may surprise some students before they start learning about Minnesota and the Twin Cities as a whole. There's a reason that we're always on the top list of like places to live and places to work. So that's something for me that has really come through. And Garth, I don't know. I know we're getting closer to time, but if you have anything to add, please do.
Yeah, two really quick things to add. Again, as someone who's lived many places in the United States, something else that stood out to me when I moved here is, to exactly Susan's point, we have all this amazing business community. We have those Fortune 500 companies, large multinational companies have offices here. But we also have a comparatively low cost of living compared to a lot of other major US cities. So like you get access and the benefits of a major metropolitan area without paying like New York City, Chicago, San Francisco prices. So especially if you're cost conscious at this point in your life, definitely something to consider is you can get a lot of that value for not as high of a cost, like in housing or food when you move here. The only other thing that I'll mention too is that we do have plenty of students that come to our program, but then choose to go somewhere else after they graduate. We have alumni all across the country, all around the world. So we're really, and especially because we have offices here of companies that have connections all around the country too. That means that you're able to still network and develop connections if your plan is to move elsewhere after you graduate. Also totally a viable path. You don't have to stay here in Minneapolis after you graduate if you don't want to.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much for that, Garth and Susan. I know we are quite tight on time, but if time permits, would you be open to taking a couple of more questions?
Of course, yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure. So Garth and Susan, there have been many students in the chat who have been letting us know that they're from a different field altogether. Like, let's say a couple of students said that they're from a biomedical or a pharmaceutical field, or someone from a different field altogether. Now, if they are to apply for, let's say, a MS in Finance or a Business Analytics or a Management Science MBA program, what are they expected to go through, or how are they expected to navigate the entire application process? Are there any prerequisites? I know there are certain prerequisites which you mentioned for the programs. Apart from that, how are they supposed to go ahead with navigating the whole application process?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And so the reason why we have the prerequisites set up the way that we do is so that students from other fields can enter our program. So like for the business analytics degree, for example, there is no requirement of needing an undergraduate degree in computer science, for example, right? We have the prerequisites set up so that students can meet that bare minimum to enter the program. But again, prerequisites are really just the baseline, especially for students that are coming from a different background. It always benefits the students to show anything else, any additional relevant experience or technical proficiency. So if you are taking additional online certificate courses or personal projects that you're working on, in business analytics, for example, the faculty have told us that they love to see it when a student has a problem in their life and they solve it using data. You know, it's something that's so simple, but just showing that you're taking that initiative, that you're passionate about the subject, and that you're able to show the logic of, even though I have this different background, here's why I'm choosing to move into this new field. Being able to show that logic and why everything fits together, always that's something that's so important to the admissions review committee. So I definitely encourage you to think about that as you're applying, but also too, that's also something you can absolutely talk about with an admissions representative to talk through how to present that story. We're always happy to help you with that process.
Yes, we welcome folks from different backgrounds. Again, the prereqs are there to prepare you. They're not meant to be a barrier. They're there to set you up for success in the program, not to be a barrier. And again, we welcome anyone from any background to apply to our programs. It's just important to spend time thinking through I'm from this background. This is why, this is the reason I want to pivot. And then, show that if you have any experiences, that highlight anytime you've used, quantitative analysis. If you're looking at one of the more technical programs, for example, that always helps the committee as well, just to better understand, in your specific role, are you comfortable with data? What kind of baseline level of knowledge are you coming in with? We don't expect everyone to be an expert who's applying to our programs. That's what our programs are there to teach you to become the expert and to dive deep. But we do want to know, your background and what you're going to bring into the table and your comfort level with some of those too.
Got it. Thanks, Susan. Thanks, Garth, for that. One question which has come up by students most frequently, which is that students want to know how does the career services at University of Minnesota Carlson is going to help them land internships, opportunities. What are the kind of support they're going to receive once they're enrolled in the program? If you can throw some light on that, that would be really helpful for the students.
Yeah, sure. So for our programs, each program has an individually assigned career coach that works with students. And so they are an expert at working with students for that particular degree, which I think is a huge, huge asset. So they're very familiar with the student profiles. They're familiar with the types of interviews and hiring practices, and have their ear to the ground on what's going on in the market. The Career Center is really split into two sides of the house. So there's a coaching side that works specifically with students, and then there's a business development side that is out there talking to companies, highlighting our students, promoting them, sending resume books, planning all the on-campus interviews, planning the career fairs. So there's the industry side as well, and both of those sides work together. But I think, what's unique about our programs is the level of engagement you're going to get, again, on that personal level, specifically with your career coach. The other piece of advice I will give is to engage early and often, and to remember that, our programs are certainly, the academics in your program are very important, right? But you're ultimately doing this program because you want to land an internship or you want to land a job. And so, you know, making sure that you are prioritizing or balancing, you know, your academics and career. And sometimes that gets a little bit tricky, but that's why we have resources in place to help you. We have coaches, we have academic advisors. And so just know that, you know, the career team spends a lot of time in understanding the market. We're actually going to be doing an upcoming session in December with one of our career coaches about, you know, the kind of the international student employment market and kind of how to set yourself apart and what students are looking for. And so Aaron is a great resource there. So come to that seed session. We'd love to see you again. But again, that individual matching, the connection with alumni, connection to companies, and then just practice, just a lot of practice. How can you, if you're looking for this based on what your experience is, how can we tailor your resume to really showcase those skills? So you're going to get a lot of that individualized, personalized feedback.
Got it.
Yeah, then just two quick additions on that too. Susan said that our career coaches are individualized by program and they have a lot of experience. They also have a lot of experience helping students from different backgrounds in different countries. A lot of our students have large international student populations, so they chances are very high that they've worked with a student with your background from your country and can help you navigate the complexities of the U.S. job market. The only other point I'll add is that our career services are very student driven. So these are not the kinds of programs that funnel students into one of two companies. It's very much you'll come in and in your conversation with our career coach, you'll say, I'm very interested. I want to work in this industry, in this type of job, in this state of the United States. And the career coach will say, great, here are some alumni you should be connecting with. Here are some companies you should be researching. Here's how you should be structuring your resume for all of these types of jobs. So it's a very collaborative process, but it's really driven by what you want for your career goals and for your life.
Thank you for that, Garth. Before we wrap up the session, Garth and Susan, one of the things we always tell students is to start early with the application process. Before students start with their application to the MS programs at Carlson, Minnesota post this session, any quick tips, final directives from your end which students should keep in mind, try to work on before they start the application?
That is an excellent question, Moeen. So my first tip is always get in touch with us. We're always happy to meet with you one-on-one. We have, and in fact, I'll go ahead and post a link here in the chat for our appointment registration link. We're always happy to chat with you individually. Even if you just want to introduce yourself and say hi, if you don't necessarily have any questions, we're still happy to connect with you and talk about the program itself. Additionally, too, if we, like I said, I posted here in the chat, if we weren't able to get to your question today, we're also always happy to answer questions over email as well. We have those program email addresses, and I'll also post my personal email address here in the chat as well. You can feel free to reach out to me directly, or you can reach out to the program, and we can definitely start a conversation and help you through this process.
Yes, that's great advice. Again, that's what our team is here for. We're here to answer questions. I would say check out some of our upcoming events as well for other ways that you can, you know, tap into learning more about the program or hear from students and alums. And my final thing is I will say, just get started, you know, you know, sometimes it can seem, for taking the first step is sometimes the hardest thing, but if you break things down into small steps, it's manageable. And you know, just slowly chip away at it. But the first thing to do, just go after this session, open an application today, open an application tomorrow. You can check one thing off your list, right? You can say, okay, I did the first step, and then that will allow you to start just even if you're just looking through the pieces of the application and kind of orienting yourself to what you need to get done. You know, taking little steps, kind of breaking it down into pieces, I think also helps candidates kind of focus in on, okay, today I'm going to work on just, you know, getting my education info in there. Great. Today I'm going to focus on my resume, and then I'll get that done. So, you know, give yourself time, break it up into steps. And the good thing is, by attending, you know, a session in September, you're definitely positioning yourself to get your application in by the round 1 or round 2 deadlines. So you're making the right choice already by joining here today.
Yep, definitely. Thank you so much, Garth and Susan, for spending your time today with us. And it has been wonderful hearing from you all on all the programs which are on offer at University of Minnesota Carlson. To all the students who have attended today, as Susan mentioned about the scholarships which are on offer with Minnesota Carlson is offering via the Seed Scholarship Fund. The details for the same would be up on our website, seedglobaleducation.com. Please feel free to go and check it out on a regular basis, and you'll find all the information you need over there. And if you're planning to apply for any of the STEM designated wonderful programs at Minnesota Carlson for fall 2026, then you should definitely go ahead and start with your application today itself. Thank you so much, Garth. Thank you so much, Susan.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.